Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our July webinar. Today, we will be talking through rechecks reminders and DCS updates and changes. Before we get started, just a few quick points to go over. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll be sharing the recording with everyone who registered later this week. So you can watch it back or share it with your colleagues who couldn't join us today. We'll also send out the slides and a copy of the Q&A next week. So look out for that in your inbox. You can listen through your computer speakers or dial in by phone. If you have any audio issues, you can switch this in Teams via the More Options button and update your device settings. Everyone will stay muted during the session, but please use the chat to ask questions at any point. We'll keep an eye on it throughout this whole presentation, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. We are joined by Imogen Wiley, Senior Product Manager here at CLA, Sarah Breer, who is our Development Manager for Education here at CLA. Sarah, I do believe Sarah is supposed to be here. Is Sarah here?
I am here, yes.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me, but
I can't see you. That's why I I had to ask. So hello, welcome. And Stephen Leach from Product Support is also supposed to be here, but I think he might be running late.
No, he's actually, I've just had a message, he's off today, so he won't be joining us. Yeah.
Okay. Today's agenda is as follows. We'll start with an overview of permission rechecks. Sarah will go over the principles, and then Imogen and I will quickly go over what you need to do and the key dates to be aware of. Imogen will then take a closer look at the reports available in the new DCS reporting and key changes from the previous platform. She'll also talk through what happens when you upload a scan in the DCS and what we can all do to make the process as smooth as possible. And then we'll have some time for questions. And now we are at annual rechecks, and this is where I will hand over to Sarah for this part of the webinar. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Monica. Just to check, can you all see me? Because I can't see me and it's slightly
There we can, you've just popped on, Sarah. Yes.
Super. Okay. Well, hello, good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit of background and the context behind the rechecks and why they need to be done. So some items are withdrawn from the CLA license, or in other words, they become excluded during the academic or license year. And then when they do become excluded, they are no longer classed as licensed material under the license, so they are not covered, but they can be kept. If they're being used for a current course, they can be kept until that particular cohort has finished the particular academic year. So why might titles become excluded? So there are a number of reasons for that. It might be a publisher level exclusion. So a publisher has decided that they don't want a particular item to be covered by the license for whatever reason. It may be at author level, for example, to do with moral rights, or it might be no, this is where it gets slightly complicated. It may be a new CCC work that has subsequently become withdrawn. But the main thing is that the check permissions will reflect all of this, and everything is automated under the DCS. They are generally at a title level, but as I said, they can be at publisher or author level as well. So it's usually a publisher that it's excluding one or more of its titles, but not all. And the license says that you must check these once a year, but of course the DCS does automate this. So if a work does become excluded, as I said, it's no longer licensed material, and if it's not being used anymore, or so under the license, it should be deleted immediately. But if it's being used and at the time of your checking, it becomes excluded, that's the point when it will be withdrawn. So that will be the end of the academic year so the cohort that is using it for the course for which it was made, they can continue to look at it until the end of the academic year, which is sort of August. And do remember that this applies to any digital copies made in connection with a course of study. So that might not be just for those in use with the current course, but where students still have access under the license until the end of their degree programme. So that's something else to make sure that you understand about. So when we say deleted, again, the DCS generally takes care of this, but we mean actually deleted, not archived. They must be deleted. So removed from your VLE completely. And it applies to any digital copies on your VLE. So I mentioned in connection with a particular course, but if it's sitting there in the background, so you think you might, it's not being currently used, but it might be used, it's been archived and it might be used in future, that also needs to be deleted. So again, the DCS should cover that. So this is just a bit of background. And it just stating the obvious here, but these requirements don't apply to paper copies that are no longer covered by the license, including printouts of digital material. So that's something to bear in mind. For example, if you've got a student that might need access or might want access if they're doing a retake, that is a way around that. I think that's probably all I need to say on that. I will stay on the call, and if there are any questions, very happy to take them. Monica, I don't know if you've got any questions at the moment.
I've been just checking the chat. If you're wanting to answer questions just now, Sarah, you can do. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, Evelyn, what did you mean about the CCC?
Oh, yes, right. Okay, so for the CCC, so for the CLA repertoire, most, so generally speaking, most books, journals, magazines printed in the UK are covered by the license, generally speaking, and lots of digital publications overseas. For the USA, it's slightly different. So we have what we called, I think they're called CCC electronic rights works. And so for both scanning and digital to digital copying, titles must be specifically opted in to CCC, and there is an ongoing sort of campaign here, which is ongoing, where we try to get more and more opt-ins. So there is quite a long tail of small publishers who perhaps are not even aware that they're meant to be opting in. So we will get opt-ins sometimes. Actually quite a lot of the time, but then within those opt-ins, so a publisher might say, a US publisher might say, yes, that's great, we'll opt in, and then they might think a year down the line, oh, but we don't want that particular book included. So that's what I mean by CCC. But again, it will be automated by the DCS, and it will be reflected in the in check permissions. And what we don't mean by CCC works is international mandated titles. So that's where a publisher has opted in all of their content wherever it's published in the world. So for instance, OUP, New York, London, wherever, that's all opted in, unless it's specifically excluded. Try not to overthink it. Check permissions is correct. So yes, that's what I meant about CCC.
Great, thank you for that, Sarah. I hope that answers your question, Evelyn. Caroline asks, I'm not sure if this is for you, Sarah, directly, but I assume so. Just to confirm, if a chapter or article is no longer included in the license, we can print copies instead for students enrolled on the course.
You could do, yes. Do bear in mind that the license isn't intended to substitute for direct purchase, so you might not want to do that a lot. It's more of a backup plan. So if you know that something's going to become excluded, we wouldn't think it fair for you to start printing lots of stuff out from those titles. But if you need to do the odd, if you've got, for example, a student retaking and they need continued access, we would see that as fair to print out a chapter.
Great, thank you. And then Bethan asks...
Yeah, I've just answered that one actually in the chat, Monica.
Oh,
I think we won't have time to go through that in detail, so I think I'll pick that up with her separately outside.
No worries. Any more questions for Sarah at this point?
Can't see any.
Okay, well, we'll have an opportunity for general questions after. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Now we'll go over how we at CLA process these rechecks and what you as an HEI need to do. The good news is that there's nothing you need to do before they begin. This process is managed by CLA. But when rechecks start, any content currently marked as covered by the CLA license will be checked automatically, and this helps make sure everything remains accurate and up to date for the new academic year. You also don't need to manually recheck requests before the 1st of August. The checks will run automatically behind the scenes. And if the recheck results in any changes to your content, we'll notify you so you can take the next steps. You will also see this under the license tab on your DCS dashboard. For now, Imogen will be going through some more info on rechecks, reports, and the automated processes. So over to you, Imogen.
Thank you, Monica. Let me just check. There we go. So last month, Stephen, I think, talked in depth about how to view and review items that need to be checked. Talk through also how you could review early if you wanted to. Now, I think some people probably have been able to, but since then we've heard from a couple of institutions, particularly large ones, that the report was timing out. So we've been going back and making some tweaks to the code. But in the meantime, I just wanted to go over exactly what happens in the automated process. So what happens is basically the system's going to ask questions. So first of all, is the current content request covered under CLA license? That includes the override. So either check permission says it's covered or you've applied an override. If not, there we go. If not, then it won't be rechecked. Any override you've applied will remain and the link will be unbroken, so nothing changes. If it is does say covered under CLA license, then it's going to be included in the rechecks. And then if it's still covered, that's absolutely fine. Nothing changes. The link isn't broken. Everything carries on. If, however, it comes up as excluded, then the link will be broken. And you have two choices. You can either remove it from the DCS or you can source alternative permissions. For example, you can approach the publisher for direct permissions. Occasionally, it might come up as not found. Again, the link will be broken and you will have to take action. Basically, that's check with the CLA permissions team, so Margaret and Sarah. Often, this is just things that were overridden very close to rechecks and they haven't found their way onto our system again. But it's worth just popping a quick message to Margaret and Sarah to double check. So that's what the system is doing. Oh, there was one thing that's just worth noting. Second extracts are not checked. They're going to remain as they are until the expiry date. And at that point, the link will break and you'll have to do a review at that point. You will have the option, obviously, to repurchase coming soon within the system, but for now, outside it as usual. So what is it that you're going to do if there's no ISN? So bear in mind that all of this automated checking relies on having a number to check against, so an ISBN or an ISSN. If there isn't an ISN, then it's going to be a manual check. Just for clarity, the links will not break, so there'll be continuity for students, but we do expect you to check. Now, the easiest way to do that is to run an HEI report. So here's a video I prepared earlier. Essentially, you go into the reporting area, run an HEI report. I think everybody knows how to do that for now. Make sure it's the current academic year, generate the report, and then download it once it's complete. The next thing you're going to need to do once it opens is filter for those items with no ISN. So it's quite far. Oh, sorry. Apply a filter first of all, of course. So if you do Control A, that will select everything. And then in the data, you can apply a filter. You can also do Control A, Control T to turn the whole thing into a table. But here I've just done filters. So now you need to scroll across, find the ISN. I think it's column R. And select only those that have a blank ISN. So that gives you the set that we're looking at. Now, again, we're only interested in ones that are marked as covered by CLA license. You might want to have a look at none as well. I think that's probably worth it. And this might be an opportunity to review your second extracts. That's kind of up to you. And that will give you the list of ones to check. Now, if it's a small number like that, you might be easier just to do it in the DCS. But if you've got kind of more than 10, then it's helpful to group them by publisher. So to do that, I think you want to move this set of data into a new sheet. So again, Control Alt and then Control V in a new sheet. And then really, we're interested in grouping the publisher. So we only check each publisher once. So Control A, Control T will put a table in, and then you can summarize by pivot table. You can also insert a pivot table using insert and then pivot table there. So what we're going to want to do is count the number of requests for each publisher. So I tend to do that with the request ID, make sure it's set to count and not sum. And then what we're interested in, of course, is publisher. So now my table has how many publishers I've got for each, no, sorry, how many requests I've got for each of the publishers. And one by one, we'll check them. So Yale University Press first. So where do we check them? Well, in CLA's excluded publishers lists. So you've probably got this bookmarked already. If not, I mean, I just Googled it, as you can see, make sure it's a copyright licensing agency, make sure it's higher ed. And then it will open up. You'll be able to see the link there. We will send this round afterwards with the video and the notes and things. So you're going to scroll down to excluded publishers and type in the publisher. Now, it's not here, so I can assume that's okay, except I can't because, of course, Yale is an international one. So we go to check the international territories page. It's a US one, so as Sarah was saying earlier, this is a kind of inclusion basis. So I can see here that Yale is on the list. When I read the text, I can see that that means that it's covered. So I can go ahead and use this. Do read the text because, is it included if it's listed or not if it's listed? You need to double check. And then obviously you just go through them all like that. If you want to drill down into, if you find one that's not and you need to attack it, so for example, this one's got 5, if you just double click there, it will open up to the full list of requests for that item. Good. So if you find any that are excluded, obviously the same applies as for the ISN ones. You have to either remove it or identify alternative permissions. Right, that was a lot of info. Moving on, Monica.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Imogen, for that. I will take over from here for a second. Let's see. So here are your dates to keep in mind for rechecks. Rechecks begin on the 3rd of August and will be managed automatically by CLA. Once processing is complete, we'll notify institutions in early August, and then we will ask you to check all content by the 1st of September to make sure that everything is ready for the new academic year. And a few important things to keep in mind once rechecks are completed. If content remains covered by the CLA license, nothing changes and it will continue to be available as normal. If content is no longer covered, it will be deactivated. However, students will still have access during the rechecks process, unless a title is ultimately found to be excluded from the license. If you find content is included after your checks, you can select an override, as Imogen has just mentioned, such as covered by CLA license. Just remember, though, that selecting an override on its own does not restore access. You'll also need to click the Generate Link button on the request page. And finally, if you believe a title has been excluded incorrectly, please contact permissions@cla.co.uk or support.education@cla.co.uk, and the education team will be happy to have a look into this for you. I will send that email through with the Q&A next week as well. The key takeaway is that most content will continue to be accessible, and where action is needed, the DCS provides clear options to help you organise your content. And now back to Imogen for some DCS deep dives. Over to you, Imogen.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just replying to a couple of queries. So just to confirm, you don't need to do anything with no ISN titles if the publisher is still covered. And out of license items will appear on the dashboard if it's got an ISN. If it doesn't have an ISN, we can't check. Therefore, you have to, using the method that I just showed you with the HEI report. Okay, next. So I thought there were a couple of topics I wanted to just whip through today. First up, looking at reports, so your reports in the DCS, and just have a quick recap of the types of report available now versus the old DCS. So firstly, the HEI report. This is the same, except that in DCS2, we've combined the downloads per content item and the HEI report into one. Why? Well, mainly because people were saying that it was a real pain having to download two and combine them into a single spreadsheet. So we've done that for you. Active requests is just renamed to requests in progress, like the rest of the DCS. Rejected and HEIs, exactly the same as they were. And once we have our new inflow SEPs purchasing, then we'll have a report for that as well. But really, the main thing is just we've combined these two into one. Let's have a little look at the usage date field. So people have been a little bit confused by the usage dates. And what does that refer to? So this is underneath the academic year, there's this usage date. Now they actually do two different things depending on the type of report. So in an HEI report, these are the student data only. So the HEI report will still pull for the whole academic year because that's kind of how the requests work. But that usage data, so the number of clicks, is going to be the date range that you enter here. However, in the other ones, actually, that's what the report will bring back because they are much more date defined. So let's have a look at the student usage data. On the left, the column here, these are all of the columns that we had in the old downloads per content item. We've had a few people mention that there's less data. Now, yeah, there is, it's true. So there were a lot of columns in the old one. Not all of which were necessarily very obvious. For example, the number of downloads to Cortex, actually that was never filled in at all. But the trouble is that 4 of them related very specifically to the advanced reader, which we don't have currently. So we haven't enabled those. As and when Cortex are able to partner with us for the advanced reader again, then we'll add them back in. But at the moment, there's just no point in having the columns because there's no data to put in them. So the ones that we do have are number of views. So that continues to be the total number of clicks on the link in the date range that you have searched for. And then the next two, number of downloads to PDF and number of prints. These are actually, these are the number of clicks from that anonymous student reader within the date range. Now, annoyingly, yes, well, I've just been asked in the chat, is Cortex still in the car for coming back? For the anonymous reader, yes, absolutely. We're checking in with them on a very regular basis to see how close we are to a resolution. So we do expect that to come back. Unfortunately, it's not in our wheelhouse to fix. So we just have to be patient and wait for Cortex to fix it. But we do expect that to come back. The advanced reader, honestly, I don't know. They're doing a lot of work on kind of new platforms, and I think we have to wait and see what it is that they create and then see whether that's something that we can still integrate with. It just wasn't possible with the previous advanced reader because they're not supporting it anymore. So just to be completely honest, I don't know if we'll get the advanced reader back. We can certainly look at, you know, other options. But for now, the priority is trying to get the main reader back on. And once that does, then these two buttons are the number of times that the downloads or the prints has been clicked within that reader. Now, before I move on, another little question regarding number of views. We carry out checks based on items with 0 views by clicking on the links to ensure they're working fine. Would staff clicking on links skew the stats? Yeah, it's all clicks. So if you have a kind of standard process where staff click on every link that's not been checked, not been used before, then I'm afraid those will be +1. But in a sense, you've already checked it works, so you won't need to recheck it, I guess. But yes, it's all clicks. We can't tell if it's a student or a staff member clicking on. I think we've picked up on everything so far in the questions, so I shall move on. Oh yes, one final thing. The lecturer fields have 2 lecturers that are named. One is the lead lecturer, so that's the lead lecturer for the course as a whole. That's completely unchanged, that remains the same. And then there's 2 fields, name and email, for reporting lecturer. Now actually neither in the old nor in the new do we have a field called reporting lecturer. And it has changed a little bit, to be honest. This was a bit of a surprise to us. So in the old DCS, reporting lecturer drew the data from the assigned lecturer data from the content request. So that was the lecturer that you had put underneath the course as the lecturer for that particular content request. In the new one, reporting lecturer is drawing the data from the originating lecturer. So that's if it came from a reading list system, so Leganto or Talis or something like that, then it draws the lecturer name from the very original request. We've been aware of that, made aware of that, and taken the point that you absolutely need to see assigned lecturer. We're looking at it and we'll swap it back to how it was, or we'll add in the additional one, so you'll have all 3. We've got to see what the kind of best way of doing it is, but just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that that is a change. We're aware, and we'll figure it out. Okay, nothing else in chat, so let's move on. If you do have anything else about reports, just we can pick it up afterwards. For now, though, I want to move on to scan uploads. So this is about what exactly happens when you upload your own scan. So as you know, when you upload something, it now goes into this pending sources area. It's immediately available for you. So if you click and select it and create the link, it's there, it's on the request, students can see it, absolutely no problem. But you won't be able to see it yet on other requests, either yourself or other HEIs. That doesn't happen until it goes into this bucket here, the HEI supplied courses. Amanda, I'm going to come back to that because I've sort of mentally moved on now. So at the back end, I just wanted to talk through what happens. So you upload a scan, it's sitting in that kind of overall source content section. First of all, it's going to sit in pending sources while the system runs its checks at the back end. It checks for various things. I'm going to talk through what in a moment. But if it passes those, then that's absolutely fine. It will move on almost immediately to the HEI supplied sources. However, if it finds anything that it glitches on, then it will be flagged, which is basically flagged for review by CLA, which means Monica and Stephen. So they will then go into our back end, and hopefully they can resolve it, and then it moves on and it's available to everybody. They may have to come back to you to kind of query something, or maybe they can just get on with it. And then sometimes it can't be resolved. In that case, it will just sit in that pending sources, so it's never going to go away for that particular content request. Students can still access it, yes, but it won't move on to the HEI supplied sources area. I think I wanted to look at reasons why it might be flagged in Vault, because sometimes it can sit there for quite a while. And I have to say, at the moment, a lot of things are being flagged, which are building up into a bit of a backlog for Monica and Stephen to check. So I thought it was worth going over, and then hopefully there'll be some that you can address ahead of time before you upload it. And also you'll know why it's sitting there. And if it's very urgent, you can message the support team, and they'll try to make a beeline for that particular one and move it on quickly for you. But let's go through why they might be flagged. The first one is if it's a duplicate scan. Now, this is not talking about the metadata being the same. It's talking about literally the PDF. There are a number of reasons why it might happen. The one where we would just go, yes, that's fine, and accept it, is where it's an EHES file. So if you imagine that you're getting a copyright fee paid copy from EHES, and the British Library send the file, and then it gets uploaded and blah, 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 all fine. But another HEI has done exactly the same, because they also need to pay the copyright fee and get the file. The British Library are going to send exactly the same PDF to you both. So that will be a duplicate, and that's fine. We just accept it and move on, and there will be two the same in the system. Fine. Other reasons, we will try and do something about it, maybe come back to you and say, look, actually, there's already one here. Why can't we use that? In order that we have a nice streamlined repository. It makes it easier for other people selecting in the future. Obviously, it's just cleaner. Good. So duplicate scans. The next reason is page count mismatch. Now, this one's a bit more complicated. There's lots of reasons why this might happen, and I'm going to focus on that in just a moment. And then finally, there's a bunch of other reasons, but they're so kind of disparate that I didn't want to go through them here. They'll be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But the page count mismatch. So this is where the system is checking the actual number of pages in the PDF, in this case it's 4, against the number of pages it expects given the page range that was stated. So in this case, the page range was 1, so it expects 1 page, but actually 4 arrived. So why might there be a mistake? There's, again, a lot of reasons. So let's move through them. The firstly, EHES. So this is where you've put in an EHES order, but the lecturer maybe asked for chapter 3. And at the moment, you don't know what the page range is, so you just put a placeholder of 1 or 999 or whatever it happens to be. That's absolutely fine and makes sense for what you know at the time. Excuse me. But when the file is added, this needs to be updated to the actual numbers, otherwise the system will flag it. So, oh yes, another little video. So the way you do this is, if you go to the view order, presumably you've previewed and seen what the actual page range is. In view order, there's a button called amend page range. You just change it, update page range, sorry, but you must do this before you accept the item. After you accept it, it's grayed out and you can't. If you forget to do it, then, you know, just message the team and they'll get round to and they'll do it for you, or eventually they'll pick it up in the queue. But you have the ability to update that, and then it won't flag it at all. Just, yeah, that's just a screenshot of the update page range, because I know that the videos don't always work when we send the recording after time. Next issue is double page spreads. I mean, it's not really an issue, it's just a fact. Double page spreads, obviously the system is going to pick up half as many actual pages in the PDF as you're putting in the page range. There's no way around that. The only thing I would say is that, with a few exceptions, it's much, much, much better to scan as single pages than double page spreads. It means that no matter what device people are reading on, it's going to be as kind of readable as possible without having to scroll back, blah, 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 blah. But of course, there are good reasons why you might scan spreads. Art books, graphs and charts and tables that go across both. Obviously, sometimes there are exceptions, and that's absolutely fine. If the team come across double page spreads, they're just going to accept them. But be aware that they will flag, so they might take longer to kind of get through the system. Ooh, the next one we have, no, this one's really straightforward. Page numbering issues with endnotes. So my slightly blurry example here, you can see that the page range was 1 to 16. So the system expects 16 pages, but actually there were 22. So there are 6 pages unaccounted for. So when the team, sorry, I should say that all of these things here, this is the back end. So this is what Stephen and Monica will see when they come to pick up the flagged item. You're not ever going to see this. So when they look at the preview, you can see pages 1 to 16, that's absolutely fine. But when they scroll to the end, they'll see the end notes. And so in that case, they're going to go in and they're going to amend and add the end notes. But of course, you could have done this in the first place, and this is how. So you have the main range and then a comma and then the numbers for the end notes. This, I mean, it keeps the system happy, of course it does, but it also is really useful for other librarians, other HEIs. Then they know that, you know, if they're going to pick up your scan, actually it's complete and it's got those end notes in it as well. Then we have a cover sheet. So quite often, particularly if it's a digital item taken from a journal site, the journal site will put a cover sheet on it, and it's fine to include that. But if you enter it as cover_1, then again, the system will accept it immediately and it won't flag. So it should flow through nice and fast. So capital C cover_1 and then a comma and then the page numbers. Occasionally a book includes an unnumbered section in the middle of a range. This is usually additional illustrations or an added colour section, maybe. The Old Lonely Planets always used to have a sewn colour section, although it was numbered. So here you deal with that by putting the beginning of the range, so let's say it's 1 to 16, and then the number of unnumbered pages in square brackets. So here I've got 2 pages, so I've put 2 in square brackets, and then continue with the rest of my range. And then finally, there are scanning errors. So this is where, for example, a couple of pages have been scanned twice. Somebody just got distracted at the photocopier. So in this case, I think we would come back to you and ask you just to, you know, review the PDF and re-upload it, unless there's I mean, maybe there's a reason you want them in twice. Unusual, I think, but generally we'd come back to you and just flag it, and then we can get it resolved that way. So these are the page numbering guidelines. Everything I've talked about, so using, you know, cover_1 or appendix unnumbered, blah, 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 blah. I am going to try and get this added as a tooltip to the DCS. Nothing's immediate. So again, we'll highlight this when we send around the recording and the notes afterwards. But I just wanted to run through the common issues today, partly to explain why things get held in the pending status, and also to make you aware that actually you have control of most of this. So between us, we can get it to go as smoothly as possible. Okay. this was the kind of bulk of what I wanted to talk about. I know there's one question where we're going to go back to. We're having a reshuffle with librarians who created requests. Will we have to change the lecturers going forward? No. Could messing with the ranges for the scan affect whether we're under the 10% limit? In terms of the DCS's auto calculator, yes, but if Sarah's still here, she will probably do a much better job than I can of reiterating how things like end matter fit in with the 10% limit. Are you still there, Sarah? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
No, that's fine. So if I understand correctly, so is this to do with notes that are relevant to the chapter, but
Yes.
not? Yeah, okay. So that is included within the chapter. We would say, yeah, it's an alternative to having these sort of footnotes on the page. So notes that are at the end of the book but are relevant to a particular chapter can be included. For the purposes of the license, we include them all in one chapter.
And what about if it's not a full chapter, Sarah, but it's say 12 pages of a 20-page chapter plus endnotes that actually push it technically over 10%?
Oh, that's an interesting
As I say, I'm putting you on the spot, really,
Yes.
because I would have to go away and ask you anyway.
So hang on, let me reassure. So 12 pages of a chapter that is not a full chapter, but that's the 10%. That's a really good question. It's not been asked before. Technically, I would say off the top of my head, just the bits of those end notes that or notes that affect that are relevant to that particular extract. But it's a really good point, and it's one I'd like to have a think about.
Okay,
So
we will take that away and come back with a concrete answer. But Evelyn, the fact would be the fact whether it was declared or not. So I think we will come up with an answer and we will let you know. But for now,
good question.
I think just do what you were doing. In other words, we will come back to you as soon as we possibly can. Yeah.
Well, Caroline Caroline said, would you be better off just including the whole chapter and adding instructions to read just pages 12 to 20? But then, yes.
Potentially.
Yes, you could.
Potentially.
Yes, that's.
I mean, that's a nice way around it. But I mean, I like to think we can come back
it.
with a sensible answer. But you're right, that would work. Right, moving on. Could we use an HEIs scan from another institution instead of uploading our own scan? Yes, absolutely. But if you have to pay the copyright fee, unfortunately, at the moment, the only way we have to do that through the DCS is to go through the HEIs process, which will upload a scan. Once you've paid the fee, you can use any version of the scan you like. Maybe slightly off topic, when adding a record for a new book that isn't on the DCS, there are two mandatory fields, page count and page range. Page count for the total book and page range for the chapter request. Yes, that is entirely correct. How is the total number of pages in a book counted? It is the number of pages in a book. We tend to, I mean, if queried, we go to Nielsen and put whatever's there. But if it comes down to a kind of detailed, then you can discount blank pages in your count. So if it came to a quibble with the publisher, they would probably want to do the same. But again, I'd like to, since she's here, just double check with Sarah. Oh, who's
sorry, I was muted. Yes, absolutely. That's my understanding too, Imogen.
Great. During COVID, pay the copyright fee, but scan a book we had available to us. Yes, that's slightly different because that's about when the British Library couldn't provide a scan. Thing about HEIs is a partnership with the British Library, so if they can't participate, my understanding is we can't do it. During COVID, they couldn't provide a lot of scans simply because they couldn't access a lot of their repository, so there were a lot of workarounds put in place, but now they've got access to, I think, pretty much everything again. So if it's not part of the service, I'm sorry, but it's not part of the service. I know that there's a long-standing desire to have a kind of separate copyright only fee. I also still think that that's something we should do, but it's not something we have currently. And the ES scan for the item 1 was not right. Yes, please do, because that's a specific one. So if just send a message to the team. Oh, they still can't provide ES from digital journals. I thought that we were back up on that, Sarah. I mean, obviously not. If you're saying not, then probably not. I'd forgotten.
Oh, I should check that with Joe.
Yeah, please do. That would be great. In terms of duplication, we may wish to upload a copy because the existing DCS copy is not to stand as acceptable to us. Great. Yeah, go for it. But then in terms of the system, it's not a duplicate because your PDF will not be exactly the same. It will have additional accessibility attributes and the system will recognize those and say, oh yeah, this is a different PDF. Yeah. So as I say, it's not about the metadata. It is literally the PDF. Right. Okay. So it sounds like there's still a few things that the British Library isn't able to access. I think.
Yeah, they're working hard on it, but they've it's a huge undertaking.
Unfortunately, the COVID arrangement was for COVID, not for cyber attack. So we're unable to implement the same thing. Questions are slowing down, but we do still have time if anybody has anything else. Otherwise, thank you very, very much for coming, Sarah, and talking us through, and thank you for being available for questions that I was going to refer to you anyway, so thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Monica, for facilitating, and any further questions, going once, going twice. Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.